And welcome to another edition of Zoomed In. I'm the host, Brandon Chapman, and I'm joined by Dr. Robert Katina, a very, very busy man. I'm going to read this off real quick, and then your head can just grow, right? He's an assistant professor of kinesiology, teaches courses in biomechanics, and we'll let you explain that in a bit. Also, kinesiology graduate program director, and there's some news attached to that. He's an affiliate assistant professor in the School of Mechanical and Materials Engineering. He's also the director of the Gait and Posture Biomechanics Laboratory, and of course, a heck of a good guy. So, and I say that because I was able to read all that stuff off, and I don't remember updating any of that online. I think you did all of it. So you're definitely tech savvy enough to take a little off my plate. So thanks for that, and thank you so much for joining me. First things first, the College of Education has had a kinesiology degree for quite some time, but this summer, the Board of Regents approved a name change. So the major was changed from sports science to kinesiology. So I'd love to hear about what the rationale was behind that, just that simple name change. And then also maybe the bigger news is that we added a master's degree to kinesiology. So I'd love to know what the rationale behind adding this was, and really how it's going to help students who graduate from this master's degree. So I know that's a lot thrown at your way, but let's just talk about name change and master's degree.
Yeah, so the name change, I think really stems from the fact that our faculty, we don't all do sports, and I would say majority of us don't do sport-related stuff. As opposed to kinesiology is the study of human movement. And we all study human movement in some context. It could be sport-related, but it also could be clinical related, in injury prevention. And that could be in sport, but it also could be for the average everyday individual. So we all have this general promotion of movement, and we want to keep people physically active, but we also want to keep people safe, and that's what kinesiology is, and I think that better defines us than sports science. So the second question
and then
there
the
was
graduate program.
the graduate degree. So we just started a graduate program actually, and have a graduate degree in there, but it's not necessarily the end of adding graduate degrees into there. But we're starting off with a master's degree, a master's of science in kinesiology. There's two options within that. There's a thesis option, a non-thesis option, and really it serves kind of two different types of students. The thesis student is the type of student that wants to make a career out of research in kinesiology. So they could end up just stopping with a master's and go work as a technician in a lab somewhere, whether it be at an academic institution, it could be in a hospital somewhere. But the plan is, or the thought is, that they would be doing research. And then the non-thesis option, really we put that in place to, it still has a research emphasis, but the emphasis is now on the application of the research, not conducting the research. So those types of individuals that we really expect to go through our non-thesis option are those individuals that want to go into some sort of administrative capacity of maybe it's like hospital administration or clinic administration. Maybe it's administration within a school district of some sort of physical education type program. But the idea behind all of our options, our two options now, but the whole program, is that there's an emphasis on research, whether it's the application of it or the actual conducting of that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think for people who haven't seen what the course load is like and all the extra stuff that comes along with being a student in kinesiology, I think they'd be really impressed with how busy our students really are. I mean, there's a lot on their plate, and the research component, as you mentioned, is vital, right, for whatever it is that they may be doing afterward. And certainly just integrated into the curriculum, there are these options. But we we have a lot of labs as well within the kinesiology program, and you have one of those labs. So it's kind of the segue here. We're going to shift gears. The National Safety. Let me start over. The National Safety Council has classified falls as one of the leading causes of unintentional death. So first is poisoning. And they have gases and chemicals to be sure, but prescription drug overdoses is the number one thing on that list. And it would surprise nobody to know that number two is motor vehicle crashes, right? But right there behind that. So in 2017, here's what the National Safety Council had. They had 36,338 people died in falls. The number one cause of death for those 65 and older. So if we don't always think about falling, that's probably, perhaps more to do with age rather than anything else. We're not in that age bracket. And so it's kind of out of sight, out of mind. Maybe if we do stumble or something, we're able to get ourselves picked back up. Or if we do actually fall, maybe we don't hurt ourselves as bad. So we don't necessarily think of it. But of course, anybody who is of that age certainly is well aware of that danger. So that's where I want to segue into the College of Education's Gait and Posture Biomechanics Lab, which you founded and you're the director of. I'd love to talk about that work and how it actually helps mitigate these fall issues. So if you don't mind talking about we just call it for short, the Biomechanics Lab. Talk about the Biomechanics Lab and really what that role is.
Yeah, so we study all things gait and posture, and the whole idea behind that is we want to reduce fall rates in our population. So how do we do that? Secondarily to that, if people do fall, we want to reduce injury, mortality, and morbidity rates from that. So we do all fall related stuff. I've done some stuff with elderly individuals, with older individuals. I guess you got to define where you put that cutoff. You put an age 65 cutoff, but that certainly changes for different populations with different other issues, health related issues. So we've done some stuff with those individuals, an older population. We've done stuff with younger individuals, developmental. Right now, our focus though is with pregnant women. Falls right behind motor vehicle accidents. Falls are the leading cause of unintentional injury to pregnant women. And it's not just injury to a pregnant woman, but there's also a fetus involved too. So there's two individuals there that we have to be concerned about. So that's where a lot of our emphasis is right now in our research, is understanding why pregnant women fall and can we do anything about it.
Yeah, hearing you talk about it, it's pretty obvious that you're talking about the science of human movement. It's not about sport. So even though certainly balance and gait and posture are part of a good athlete, but so that just stood out to me and really confirmed what you had said earlier. Would you explain gait for those for whom this may be a totally new term?
Yeah, gait is typically thought of as walking, but it's not necessarily walking. Running is a form of gait. It's anything that takes us from one place to another. Some people even throw in some abnormal forms of gait in there that we don't typically think of. Crawling is a gait. It's something taking us from one place to another. So we typically would study walking, but we have done some stuff with running, looking at downhill running. How do downhill runners avoid falls? Something we have to be a little bit more concerned about here in Pullman because of the steepness of our hills. So.
Yeah, we got a few hills here.
Yeah.
So if I were to say that I run like a duck, you could say I have the gait of a duck, maybe. I mean, that's
Yeah, waddling is a type of gait, and it's actually a type of gait that I kind of deal with a little bit more as I deal with pregnant women.
pregnancy.
Yeah, they're described by some individuals, some researchers, as having a waddle at a certain stage within pregnancy, and Yeah, so that's one of the things we look at.
Of course, with COVID, we keep hearing that term thrown around, underlying causes, unfortunately. And I'm sure, there's an official cause of death. Sometimes it doesn't even get accounted for falling. There was a wonderful woman here in Pullman, actually, extremely spry, 90 something years old. There's no question in the world she was going to outlive her husband. That was not the case. She ended up falling and ended up breaking her neck. And so cause of death is broken neck, right? So do they account for all falls even, or things that maybe lead to death eventually because of immobility or just mobility issues? I'm not sure. So that falling could be even more serious, I think, than the National Safety Council has, where they've had a direct tie. You definitely have academic credentials, and I kind of told you I'd ask about this. I mean, you got your uh, biological science degree from University of Alaska Fairbanks. You got biomechanics degrees, master's and doctorate from the University of Oregon. I'm just to trash talk a little, I'm going to say go Beavs. And then you did your postdoc at Harvard. So academic pursuits, that's one absolutely awesome thing, but to see it firsthand, right? So it's not in the scholarly realm. It's really real life in front of you. Way back in the dawn of time, the early 2000s, you were a firefighter, a medic, an EMT in Fairbanks, Alaska. Talk about that and times when you saw the real effects of people who had fallen.
Yeah, so I was actually in two capacities. My primary capacity as a firefighter or EMT um, was for mostly residential area surrounding the suburbs of Fairbanks. So we got called to a lot of homes where individuals had some sort of injury or illness. In a lot of cases, especially for when those were older individuals, that injury was fall related. A fall in the house, a fall right outside of the house, slipping on ice, something like that. The other capacity I was EMT was on an air ambulance service. So we would fly out of Fairbanks, pick people up in rural communities and fly them back to Fairbanks. Kind of like how we have a life flight between Pullman and Spokane, but we covered a much larger area through the interior of Alaska. And so we'd pick up people, and in a lot of those cases, I would actually say that we didn't get a lot of individuals that fell because it costs so much money. Falls are, compared to the cost, it's not something that really people can afford in rural communities to be going to see a doctor about. Not necessarily that they shouldn't, but they make that decision not to address that. So yeah, I imagine, were a lot more incidents of falls that we didn't get called for that maybe we should have, at least earlier on before there was any lasting effects
Now
for
I
those
feel like we
individuals.
need to talk about, financial equality with our cultural studies program or something.
Yeah.
So you definitely are going across spectrums here. What are some of the leading causes of gait and balance issues that you see overall, and why is it such a really a daunting scary thing for somebody who's older fall, and maybe you or I can be okay. Although I did rip up my knee skiing once when I fell. That was not fun.
Yeah.
But what is the difference there?
So um, the so you accurately described that it really is primarily older individuals that we are most concerned with falling. But what the real underlying issue is that the body is changing. And that's the same thing same reason why I'm studying pregnancy, because the body changes. Um, why people study developmental balance control, because the body is changing. And it takes time for people to adapt. And in some cases, they can adapt because the body changes in such a way that doesn't really allow them. So for like an elderly individual that might have decreased strength, um, uh, decreased attention to their environment, might have some secondary, although you wouldn't necessarily call them secondary issues, but maybe suffering from dementia, Parkinson's, some other potential cause that leads to the imbalance. It's really ultimately just about the body changing in some capacity that we can't handle, and that ultimately puts us in a situation where we're more susceptible to falling.
Okay. Yeah, and I know, when I do fall, which happens from time to time, I trip and, I know where I'm able to get up, and first thing is you look around, make sure nobody saw you. The second
Yeah.
step is to dust yourself off, and, pretend it never happened. But that's something that I can get up and, generally dust myself off. Right. And so I feel grateful for that. But I do start to think now in the future, do I want a house with stairs? When I get to that age, I'm a little clumsy with my feet already. Is this going to be a huge issue? And it really has dire or like deadly consequences for a fall. So that is something now that I'm starting to think about. With the lab, what has been your favorite part? What has been the part that maybe gives you a little pause and appreciation for the work you're doing?
The first, I guess, two things really stand out. The people that I work with, the people, the participants that come into the lab. I guess that's also the people that I work with, the students that I work with, to make that research possible. So, regarding the participants in my lab, I love working with pregnant women. They have more of an appreciation for this scientific pursuit of understanding why falls, because they see it applicable. They see it applicable to their own health, but they also see it applicable to their baby's health. And when you're considering another person, someone that you're so attached to, then it even becomes more salient for us. And then, as I mentioned, the students that I work with, I love just talking about biomechanics, talking about falls. It's the reason why any scientist would go to a conference, because we just want to talk to other people about our topic. And so, working with the students, I get to talk to these individuals a lot during the week and about this particular topic, and we engage in a lot of great conversations. And I love to see that interest in learning, but also when someone gets something for the first time, that spark, that's really awesome too. So it's just really about working with all these individuals that makes everything great.
That's really cool. I can only imagine you're sitting there at those conferences with other experts in gait and posture, and you're very aware of gait and posture all around you.
Yes.
Since you have an open mic here, I am still rolling. Anything else you want to add? Anything that's been burning within, and you just want to tell the world, because this is your chance. I mean, this is going on YouTube. Anything that has really, that you've enjoyed and that's impressed you beyond what you had just talked about a second ago, that you think is worth people knowing about?
Well, I'm really excited about our graduate program. We got our first group of students in this semester. We didn't even have an official kinesiology degree until the summer, but we already had people from our undergrad program very interested, and they ended up applying to actually Ed Psych decided to bring in students for us under their degree until we could transition them into being official kinesiology students. There's a real interest. There's a real excitement. It's from our students. We have 500 undergrad students in kinesiology around that. And they're going to be looking for what to do after undergrad. Some of them will go off and do their thing, but some will want to keep on that academic pursuit of education. And we want to be that outlet. And it's what's really exciting about that is that there is no other research, there is no other kinesiology graduate program in the state of Washington that has a research emphasis. UW doesn't have a kinesiology program. Eastern, Central, and Western, they have kinesiology programs, but they aren't, these top tier research institutions like WSU is. We can be that source for research pursuits for all the students in kinesiology for the entire state of Washington. And even outside of Washington, there aren't that many just in the Northwest. A lot of the kinesiology graduate programs are on the East Coast or in the Midwest, and a lot of our students don't want to go that way. They want to stay home in our area. So I'm really excited about our future, our potential for our state and for our region.
Yeah, I'm excited about all of those things. I think maybe you came in the year after I got here to WSU, the year or two. I can tell you that I've seen tremendous growth within the program, and a lot of that absolutely comes back to the work that you're doing. And certainly you have phenomenal colleagues within kinesiology as well. But congratulations on that growth, on just taking the program in to the next step, and there will be more steps after this because the trajectory is great. So congratulations on that. And I wanted to say thank you so much for joining me. I think this is great information, stuff that maybe a lot of people don't know. And we're going to try continue to get the word out there, because this is something that affects lives, not only the students with additional opportunity and access and the ability to do this research, but what happens with that research, right? This research matters. And maybe, hopefully, someday this will not be the third leading cause, of unintended death in the United States. Hopefully we can see that go way down. So thank you for all those things and for joining me, and good work here at WSU within the college, within the program, and go Cougs. Thank you so much, Robert.
All right. Thank you.